You find yourself in this strange place. It is the same forward and back. There are a myriad of twists and turns, with no sign of light in either direction, and no indication of what may lie within the darkness. Along the walls are portraits, once ordinary people who were just like you, forcefully altered to become a gallery of rogues, along with the bizarre maladies that made them that way, through strange scenarios that left a grotesque scar along the faces of their very souls. Now you, discovering yourself to be in a place with no beginning and no end, with only the corner of the next turn to guide you in the darkness, and being surrounded by those who had come before and could not escape, have found yourself here, in the Twisted Corridor. Perception is reality. It's a phrase you've likely heard all your life, but have you ever stopped to think just how extremely that could apply? History is full of examples of simple but overly promoted views swaying all sorts of events, wars, business dealings, and, of course, personal wealth. When faced with a moral dilemma of this scale, one always has the most important choice to make. Is it preferable to have the outcome garnered by the truth, or the one that your preferred view might bring? Such is the case in our tale tonight, an interesting and severe study in whether truth or perception is the better guide out of the Twisted Corridor.
What in the name of George is going on here? This isn't the way back to my home. Why is it so dark in here?
Hello? Is someone there?
Yes, I'm here. I can't see a blasted thing. Where are you?
I don't think that's going to much help, my boy. He doesn't know where you are any more than I do. There is another here. How many denizens of this accursed realm are we to expect?
How eloquently spoken. I do wish your way with words had some practical use for our little trio right now, though.
Well, I declare. Look at that, boys. There's a light. Just a single light.
I see it. Let's meet there.
I also can see it. Perhaps it is a portal out of this punished place.
Well, not exactly the kind of companions I'd expect to be greeted by.
Another I myself, sir. What a curious trench coat you have on. Would you by chance be from London?
Leeds, my good fellow, but I often lived in London for extended periods of work. I'm surprised you recognize it.
My great-grandfather was from Great Britain, and he had a coat just like that one. The accent is a helpful identifier as well. Good sir, I know not the clothing you wear, but I recognize a fighting man when I behold one. Thy uniform speaks of thy history as such. Be you a leader, perchance? Indeed, my good man. I am, in fact, a general of the world's most powerful army. You've likely heard of our exploits, even if you are a foreigner, as you obviously are.
I think not, my dear man. Our chap with the flowery speech here is obviously a soldier in the Roman army. That, combined with his speech, indicates that he is no contemporary of ours, but rather a character from ancient history, implausible as that may sound.
Implausible? Why, it's ridiculous, sir. Utterly absurd. This man is clearly an actor. I assure you, I am no veteran of the stage. This man in the trench coat was thy chosen designation, is correct in his identification of myself as a Roman citizen serving in battle to protect my people. The rest of his presumption, however, is strange to me, and I confess to a profound lack of understanding. Well, now, that's just how an actor would identify himself, isn't it? There's still no proof that you're anything but.
Except that there is, dear General. You see these footprints that our Roman friend's sandals have left behind. Observe their appearance. That is terra rossa, red soil, and it is found, among other places, along the Mediterranean Sea. This man is as much from Rome as I am from Leeds, and you are from... Come to think of it, I don't recognize your uniform either.
I, sir, am a proud citizen of the Confederate States of America, and might I add, sir, that yours was a most admirable piece of deduction. My hat is off to you.
Thank you. I work as a detective for the London police force. But you say that you are from America. Those tiny settlement colonies across the pond. Why, surely you are in no position to have had such a nice suit made in a tiny town of shacks.
If I may posit a theory connected with your own, sir. If this Roman truly is from ancient times, then mightn't it be possible that I myself am from a chapter of history later than your own also?
Yes, indeed it might. But why? How did three estranged men from varying geographical and chronological locations suddenly find themselves in a seemingly endless void with, as it currently appears, no way out? Why us? And what are we to do about it?
Your words, they swim circles around my mind, friends. If thou both art truly from what shall be mine future, then we must truly be trapped in the underworld, punished by the gods for our iniquities.
Yes, well, I highly doubt that, my good man, but you are correct in surmising that we are certainly trapped. But how did we all get here? Perhaps we should all recount what we were engaged in just before finding ourselves here.
Hi. I'm sorry, I don't know where I am, and I just sort of follow the voices and the light. Is this some sort of costume party? Again, this man assumes that I am a member of the stage, when I most clearly am not.
Now, hold on just a moment. Would you be so kind as to inform us as to what we are all dressed as? Simply humor us for one moment.
This is so weird. I guess I can. He's obviously a Roman soldier. He's another soldier, probably from the Civil War. And you, well, I'm not sure what you are, but you're English.
A very astute observation.
Good Lord, man! This lad recognizes my uniform. My country is indeed engaged in a civil war.
And for me, your country hasn't even been deemed a sovereign nation as of yet.
And I know not the meaning behind any of this.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying that you're all real? Like, not just dressed up? You really are from different times and places?
That, my boy, is precisely what we are asserting, and you appear to be the furthest into the future of all of us. Your dress is certainly foreign to my eyes.
Yes, and mine.
Oh, this is just a button-up and some slacks. I work in an office, nothing fancy.
His speech is incredibly droll.
Perhaps this moment might prove itself ideal for the exchanging of our recent memories, as was suggested by the man with the keen eye.
Indeed, I believe our Roman companion is correct. It appears to be our only lead, wouldn't you say, detective?
Indeed, I most agree. The only matter to settle is who shall share first.
Well, if my 2 cents are worth anything here, I think it makes the most sense to go in chronological order. So the Roman soldier goes first, then the detective, then the Civil War soldier, then me, even though I really don't have anything exciting to share.
Perhaps we allow the stories to unfold as they will before passing judgment on their level of excitement. Very well, we shall take the office worker's suggestion. How about you begin first, our Roman friend? What were you doing just before arriving here?
My tale. It is a long and complicated one, and it portrays mine character in a most unfavorable manner.
My good man, no one of worth is without a few skeletons in his closet. We all do things we are not proud of. As a good book says, the truth shall set ye free. Besides, I think we could do with a long and complicated story. The fellas around the campfire aren't too bright at making up yarns of their own.
Very well. I know not of this good book of which you speak, nor of your hidden skeletons, but perhaps I shall upon the sharing of your own story, General. I will endeavor to be as forthright and truthful as it is in my being to be. It would a fitting confession make, in the absence of a priest, after what these hands and heart hath committed.
We are your captive audience, sir.
I come from a humble Roman village, peaceful in nature, largely contented with our magistrates and emperor, may his holy name live forever. I had myself thus a family, well cared for, given my status as a Roman officer, a soldier of war, proudly defending my domicile and his holiness. Unlike mine humble home, however, our neighboring provinces were not ones in which peace oft found a dwelling place. Mine village was near the very edge of the empire, and as such, I would, with some frequency, have my services called upon in order to fend off any who might seek to do us harm, or whose intentions do not forthrightly avail themselves to our magistrate. I have been in this army, and the local chapter thereof, since I was but a boy, old enough to fight and be wed. For the duration of my life, however, naught but small skirmishes and arrests had ever occurred before mine eyes. I am not a man who walks closely with companionship, but I had myself in my regiment a friend named Titus, and we oft spoke of both our triumphs and tribulations to one another. We shared, it should seem, a connection of mind, as we found ourselves to communicate excellently with one another in our spars, and indeed in our limited battle experience. When one of us moved in one direction, the other would move to balance us both. 'Twas though the gods had created one mind and broke it in two to be shared between us, such was our combined skills in the course of war. The other soldiers even thusly noticed, and Titus and I would oft receive praise and commendations from the prefect. I have found that, in time, all things must cycle, and what was old must become new again. No matter the history we can read, no matter the folly of taking another's life over simple disagreement, all things must begin and end only to begin once more. Such was the case for my tiny village, which was beset upon by a neighboring principality in such force that I, along with other fighting men from mine and other Roman villages, were called up to defend our land, granted us by the gods. The battle was substantial, and I saw many wounds on the battlefield, finding strength only in the hope of preserving the life of my young sons and my homeland for the glory of Rome and her holy emperor. Our enemies had strategically controlled the number of fighting men to send into this battle, but they had vastly underestimated the strength and, more significantly, the unity of the provinces within the empire, and we slowly yet decisively began to gain ground. As a final push, they sent a great wave of soldiers, all the fighting men they had so long preserved, in an attempt to outflank our men and to find any passage into our village. Indeed, our forces failed to foresee such an onslaught, but we would not be shaken. One night, as we were forced to scatter and take shelter in a network of caves, I waited for Titus to return with food and water from another soldier who might be in possession of some. My temporary ease, then, was shattered when Titus re-entered the cave, carrying a hostage, badly beaten and weakened, into the dim firelight. Titus's face, however, glowed brighter than any fire could have burned.
"Marcus, I bring joyous tidings!"
Titus could hardly contain his excitement, his smile glistening through the blood and bruises etched across his face. "Titus, who have you brought here? I recognize him not, but his attire is not of our land."
"My friend, this is no ordinary soldier. The gods have favored us this day. The two consuls in our enemy's city have great conflict amongst each other, and the one in his cycle of ranking has thus sent his rival into battle to join with the fighting men."
"Are you to tell me that this man is a magistrate? Such an esteemed officer, here with us?"
"It is just as you say, my friend. I heard a movement while on my way, and I quickly pounced thusly and wrestled with him, during which he knocked away my dagger. I felt for a stone and so caught him in the head. After a brief interrogation, he told me who he was, and presented me with the seal of his city, which only a magistrate would be found to carry. Observe it, Marcus."
"You speak truthfully, my friend. But thine eyes hath deceived ye, for mine own hath laid upon this symbol previously. This is not the seal of an enemy, but rather of an ally from the east. You have indeed brought to death arms a magistrate, but of our own cause." At this, the face of my dear friend turned from one of joy to one of fear. He knew as well as I that once this magistrate found once more his vitality, he would bring to bear our humiliation and execution for our great crime of doing such a man the injustice of severe harm. The families of Titus and Marcus would be put, therefore, to shame, and he and I would have only the gods to which plea might be made for our pardon. There was naught to be done. Such was my thought, at least, though Titus thought differently on the matter.
"We must kill him, Marcus. Titus, I liken thee unto a brother, but such an action is unconscionable. Listen closely, brother. At tomorrow's night, we shall present his body as that of a martyr's. We shall tell all of his death at the enemy's hands. We shall make haste to fill his role in the confusion of the battle, and lead our people to the victory of which we are already assured. We two shall be crowned with accolades and given status and wealth. Titus, open thine ears towards thine own tongue. Such rhetoric is a shameful dishonesty. It wars against the very nature of all that we purport to uphold. Should Marcus the Brave rather long for the taste of death? Wouldst that he desire his family to live in squalor, shamed from society until they go down to the underworld? Nay, brother, but that they may thrive, live long, and be joined with thee in the Elysian fields.
Thou appealest to my innate desires, dearest Titus. Alas, this method by which thou seekest salvation is a dark and horrid one.
Thine own hand hath taken the lives of 10,000, yet they hesitate at one more. I like it no more than thyself, Marcus, but our risk is higher than the peak of Olympus. What difference then is it if one man perishes to save the lives of two, and their families, and future generations? 'Tis only the promotion of a heroic view to our fellow men. It can't but benefit us.
I pondered his words. Naught of what he had told me was a falsehood, and yet I myself could not quench my rising intuition that not all would unfold as he described. Yet, in my distress regarding mine own life and that of my family's, I allowed fear a purchase in my mind, and I assisted Titus in taking the life of the magistrate. At first, the words Titus had spoken came to pass, just as he espoused that they would. We won the battle, with him and I at the head of the fleet, and we were given high commendations by many ranking officials throughout the empire. We both were given status as consuls, a particularly despicable title, given the shared title with the man we had killed. By this time, however, I had learned to adopt a stance of ignorance, and my family was contented and happy in our new and much more stately abode, as was Titus and his family. But, after only a few short months, the joy came to an end. As fellow magistrates, one ranked above the other, and this change occurred every cycle. Titus's cycles of rule quickly transformed into dictatorship, and whilst we benefited, the people suffered, causing an uprising. I, in my own cycles of power, could only reverse or ease a nominal portion of the suffering he had inflicted for his own gain. I feared that Titus would send me into danger, or find false cause to have me arrested, should I meddle in his policies beyond his level of comfort. I recognized that I myself could have done these things to him, but I would not treat a friend so poorly after so many moons of companionship. I trusted that he would show me the same courtesy. He failed in this regard, though, and during an attack on our courts by the disgruntled people, Titus attempted to place the blame on mine own shoulders and to have me beheaded before the people. I fled as the province fell, taking my family to some part of the empire in which we could live in safety. As we made haste in our flight, I tripped on a stone in the wood, and the light of day squeezed from mine eyes as I greeted the earth with a most unholy kiss. After this, I found mine feet moving towards this light, and hearing thus the voices of these, my unlikely companions.
Well, that is quite a story. At the very least, Titus and yourself were never discovered as frauds.
And that is to make it worth the pain I inflicted on others, and the poison which now courses through mine heart? Why shouldst this dark dungeon be anything but the underworld? I deserve naught but punishment for the evil I have caused.
Hey man, we all make mistakes. Yours was a bad one, yeah, but not unforgivable.
Indeed, my good man, but no one is beyond redemption.
Your encouragements are recognized, but I cannot but resign to my fate.
What baffles me is how little of an explanation this offers for how you got here, or for that matter, any of us.
Well, sir, we only have one piece of the puzzle. Perhaps your tale will aid us in discovering what is truly afoot in this place.
I do wish you had not said what you did earlier, General, about total honesty. I, like a Roman friend, my apologies, like Mr. Marcus, was engaged in something most distasteful.
If thou shouldst find it in thine heart to withhold immediate judgment from my sorry display of morality, then I shall return the kindness.
Well said, Sir Marcus. We are all perfect strangers here, sir. We are only here to listen and understand.
Very well. As I previously mentioned, I am a detective for the London police force, and I often live there for extended periods while I am on a case for them. This is what I was doing on the day my life changed forever. After receiving a morning call from the police escort, I was taken into the city to be met by my longtime police liaison and friend, Officer Burkhardt. Upon arriving, I found several officers on the step of a shack, along with the usual small crowd of onlookers, curious to know what was afoot. Burkhardt pushed the crowds aside and ushered me into the shack.
Out of the way, please.
After taking me past a few of the rooms, we descended upon the spot in which the crime had taken place. It was a murder, so I had been told, and I had before seen many a mangled corpse. But this one was to make my stomach churn.
Lord in heaven. What's the matter, Belle? Do you see something? Surely you've seen worse than this.
Yes, of course, Burkhardt. It's only... Sometimes I think on the snuffing out of a life and it gives me pause. That's all, nothing more.
Right. It's a sad state of affairs, it is. This woman had nothing on her but the clothes on her back. Tattered rags they are. No identification whatsoever. The coroner will be here soon to do the autopsy. We only knew she was in here after someone walking by noticed the smell and peered in. She's been dead for days.
Yes, indeed. The wounds are old, but they appear to be the work of a smuggling ring we've been after for some time now.
Right you are, Bill. We suspected the same thing. We've been so close to nabbing their ringleader. If we could find out who this woman was, we might be able to piece enough victims together to get them this time.
Yes, well, it will be a challenge, dear friend, but I will do my best work, as always. What Burkhardt had failed to see, which I counted as a great fortune to myself, is that I did, in fact, know this woman, though I could not tell him or anyone else. For you see, the murdered woman was my mother, and I knew precisely why she had been killed. But for that, I must alight to earlier days to explain how all of this had happened. I am not a man of need or financial burden. My family has owned an estate on the outskirts of London for generations, only adding to its acreage over the centuries. I grew up there, playing only with boys whose pedigree matched my own, and attending only the finest schools. My parents were distant, with father always engaged in some lofty business dealing, and mother in the overseeing of the staff and the entertainment of guests. In my teenage years, my father died of heart failure, and my mother descended into chaos after this. My siblings, all older than myself, had all left to build lives and families of their own, but I was still in the mansion, which had become a gilded cage to me and mother. We attempted to grow closer, mother and myself, to establish a relationship built on love and not obligation, but she made it frightfully difficult. 'Twas already a challenge to be seen by townsfolk and the boys at school as diseased, given how closed off our family and home had become to the outside world. But mother would also use immense amounts of the family's cash reserves to buy what she considered the only way out of a temporary misery: opium. At first she had come easily by it, as anyone might at a drugstore, or by insisting on a false feeling of illness to a doctor. But her addiction had eventually been found out, and she had been cut off by all conventional suppliers, which meant that she had to search for any means by which to obtain the vile stuff. She fell into the hands of crooks, beasts of men who fed her enough opium at first, and then abruptly cut it off, extorting her for more money when her withdrawal began to set in. I, upon turning of age, seized control of my father's banking accounts and put a stop to my mother's accessing of it before she ruined us all. This led her to yet other corrupt men in order to procure secret loans, all of which came with high interest rates. The closer I attempted to become with mother, the more difficult it became. That, you see, is the trap of addiction. It offers the allure to solve all of one's issues, only to then work on a short and temporary basis, leading to the need for more. Eventually, once the addict realizes his need for escape, it has already been too late for quite some time. With such an overwhelming feeling of hopelessness, the addict then seeks to escape the guilt of his addiction, with the very addiction that placed him in that bottomless pit to begin with. His desire for freedom becomes wholly irrelevant, and so it goes on and on and on, until either the addiction gives way, or the addict does. And perhaps the most frightening aspect of it all is that while my mother was addicted to opium, addiction could come from anywhere and take the form of anything. So how then is one to escape addiction, in any and all of its forms. In the case of my mother, I thought that perhaps I, as an outside force rooted in care for her, could change her. How naive I was. My gentle and empathetic stance only gave her free license to invite more and more strange men onto our grounds, with more threats being lobbied against her. The only thing I would not budge on was our family finances going to her drug-fueled frenzies. It became so out of hand that one day I had to confront her.
Mother, you'd best throw away that pill this instant. Mother, how dare you?
Now you listen to me, woman, and you listen well. I have not stayed in this cursed house to see my family name besmirched by a frail old woman on the verge of an overdose. You have brought enough shame upon us to last for generations. Father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and all the rest of them would blush even to look at you. I have tried to be patient, have I not? I have tried to care for you. For years I have sought to be a solid rock, someone you might find solace in leaning upon. But no more, mother. I am about to get the biggest job of my life, working for the London police, and all the while there is crime happening under my roof. My life will not be ruined simply because you want yours to be, and to drag me down with you. Either you hand those pills over to me and get yourself clean, or you get out of my house. Do I make myself clear? The next morning, I went to apologize for my outburst, and she was gone. And after a little extra security was hired to cover our estate, the bad men were no longer seen either. After securing the job with the London force, I bought my cottage in Leeds as a getaway from the mansion, which by this time felt more like a tomb, only living there when I was in town for a job. This arrangement had suited me for nearly 10 years, but now here was my mother dead before my very eyes, and a killer that I knew. My mother had spoken several times, shortly before she had left all those years ago, of the name of the man who ran the entire operation. He was particularly invested with his gang's business dealings with her, given my family's status and wealth. I could not, however, give this name up to my friends in the police, as there was no way for me to have known it without revealing the truth, which could perhaps relieve me of my job on the police force and result in a never-ending scandal, which I had worked so hard all these years to bury after my mother had closed herself off to the world the way that she did. And the longer I kept the name secret, the worse things would become for me should I ever reveal it. But I certainly had not expected to find my own mother dead at my feet. I was faced with a choice. I could spend some time in London and then go to the police and attempt to lay out an entire mystery that had never happened, simply to reveal the name of the ringleader and put an end to all this. But that would still involve confessing that the victim was my mother, and if my details failed to match the police records of all the other victims they had found, and the other gang members they had brought in, I could be in jail for the rest of my life. My other option, of course, was to spend some time in London and then claim that the trail had gone cold and that it was simply unsolvable. It had certainly happened before, if rarely. The crime ring would still be free to operate, but my image would be preserved, and my life would be simple and easy. I decided to pursue the latter. A few days later, after calling a buggy from town, I was greeted by a strange man inside. He did not look particularly pleasant.
Hello, Mr. Bell. Thank you for not ratting us out to the coppers.
I think I have the wrong carriage, sir. Pardon me.
I wouldn't move if I was you, Gov. Your dearly departed mother still owed us a lot of money, and you're her only next of kin for hundreds of miles. I think it's about time somebody balanced the books, don't you?
I always carried a police whistle on me, in the event that I discovered something urgent and needed the aid of a nearby officer on the street, and I quickly retrieved it from my coat pocket and blew it. After only a moment, though, it was snatched away.
That wasn't a very wise decision. Night-night.
After that, I began walking here, in this ominous space.
Alas, thou hast forfeited your life, just as I have. Truly, we are all in the underworld.
At ease, Mr. Marcus. I don't believe the brute stabbed me. He simply whacked me in the back of my head.
Perhaps it was a harder thump than you believe.
Why, General, are you suggesting that you also are deceased?
It's hard to be sure.
I'm pretty sure I'm not dead. Nothing like that happened to me. Yes, well, you likely had no family betrayals or secret drug lords to worry about.
Perhaps, just as thy mother was bound, addicted, saith thou, to these harmful substances, so thou were addicted to the ideals of self-preservation, just as I myself was, and, precisely as thou sayest, such sirens are inescapable.
I commend you, sir, for your honesty. Based on your story, it seems to be a difficulty for you. It is better to start telling the gospel truth sometime rather than no time. It seems that both of you have learned a valuable lesson in your lives, which is that false views often come with their own casualties. It's never worth the gaslighting or the facade in order to simply better oneself or to escape consequences. Honesty truly is the best policy.
Yes, well, thank you for your lesson in morality, Reverend, but you asserted that you yourself may also be among the dearly departed. I recognize your somewhat advanced years, but you are far from infirm, and your build is still reasonably fit for someone of your age. So then, how does one perish when he is fit, not terribly old, and protected from the worst of battle? Generals are used for their wisdom and tact, not for fighting among lieutenants and colonels.
What I understand of Bell's words ring true. Thyself truly must show guilt for a committed atrocity, as it is with us.
Right you are, Detective Bell. But, Sir Marcus, I'm afraid that you are sorely mistaken. You see, gentlemen, all of those things I was only just saying about honesty and facades and consequences, these are not merely platitudes I pulled out of the good book. Rather, they are the principles I've had to repeat to myself and assure myself of just before landing in this place with you all, as a matter of fact.
What do you mean? What happened to you?
Well, as you know, I've been in General Lee's army for quite some time now, fighting the good fight for President Davis. Given my extensive experience in the armed forces, I was called upon to avail my services to the good men on the battlefield. I was only too happy to assist. But one night, I alone was taken from my tent by some clever Yankee spies, a bag over my head, and when it was removed, I found myself face to face with a Yankee general, lamp lit and suit pressed.
Well now, if it isn't General Hargreaves brought right to my desk, I must say it is an honor, sir.
I presume I have the pleasure of speaking with General Robertson.
You presume correctly, sir.
And to what do I owe the pleasure of this unofficial escort and visit to your tent?
Unofficial? My dear General, I assure you that this business is of the highest order. Such esteemed company cannot be anything but official.
Then perhaps you might do me the kindness of explaining the business at hand, that I might best know how to engage.
They told me you were a smart man, General, and they were correct. I so rarely have the chance to talk with men from the other side of the Mason-Dixon line, at least any who are as civilized as yourself. I've been waiting for this opportunity, General. I've been interested in an honest conversation with someone who matters since this blasted war began.
Why do you believe I am the one with whom you might make such conversation? Who's to say that I won't make a lunge at you as you speak?
Now, General, I'd call that a tactical misstep in our little chat here. You know as well as I that you would be dead in moments. I don't consider you a man distasteful enough to attack a fellow officer in that manner. You also are aware, I am sure, that your hands and feet are not bound, because I have no interest in you as a prisoner. I only want an open ear.
You have it, sir.
Excellent. General, how many battlefields have you surveyed in your time?
I lost count long ago. Hundreds, if not thousands. My family immigrated to the colonies to participate in the Revolution. Battle has been in our blood.
Really? That is quite fascinating. I cannot boast such an illustrious family background, but I too have laid eyes on countless sights, insurmountable bodies of fallen comrades and enemies alike. And the one thing I can never help but think to myself is, what it's all for. I mean, what are we doing here, General? Two highly distinguished and decorated soldiers, and both citizens of the same land? helping to fight somebody else's war so he doesn't have to. Do you not see the folly in that, sir?
Your point is taken, General. It is a difficulty to carry the burden of seeing good men die, and remembering many others who have died already, when such disputes could be settled far more humanely. But I assure you, my good ma'am, that I firmly believe in the validity of our cause.
This is precisely why I had you brought here, General. You are a thinking man, a man who can see and empathize with another's point of view, and I can appreciate yours as well. But, may I be honest with you, General? We both know who's going to win this war.
A military victory is not an alternative for morality, sir. For a victory on the battlefield may win one the power of rule, but morality is based in objective truth, and when the immoral reign, morality is lost. Without a moral foundation, a society crumbles. I believe it was your own President Lincoln who quoted the words of our Lord not long ago when he said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." When our leaders lead us to war against our own souls, our own morality, then may God help us all.
You are well spoken, General. Surely you understand that I feel just the same, only favoring my own cause. You articulate your point well. Whether you are right or wrong, however, you must acknowledge that you see the direction the war is taking. We are not terribly far from the end, and one side is poised to take the other over in short order.
Excuse my impertinence, General, but did you bring me here simply to gloat?
I do beg your pardon, General. My hospitality has been tainted some by the rough life of the battlefield. I apologize for my bluntness. The reason I brought you here, General, is so that we might help one another.
You have my attention, sir.
This war is only going to end one way, and when it does, men like you, General, are going to be in trouble. You are one of the higher-ranking officers in a fight against your own country.
A fight that we, sir, did not start.
Regardless, General, you must recognize the position you will soon be in. But I think I can avoid any ill happening to you or your loved ones after the war. I think you would agree that, regardless of the winner, it will be a shame to lose all those brilliant minds on the opposing side. A victorious army can't trust those who had sought to bring them down after all, but so much knowledge will be lost. It's not your fault that we don't care for your cause, any more than it's your fault that you're going to lose. And having had our skirmishes here for the last few weeks, I can see the brilliance in your strategy, sir. I must admit to some bloated confidence in my own skills, but I have scarce met a challenger as evenly matched to my intellect as yourself. Though we have never met until tonight, I feel as though I have grown to know your mind some, and I am, while your military opponent, a secret admirer of sorts.
Your words are kind, General. My thanks to you. But what is it that you propose?
Ah, yes. There are my lackluster manners again. War does all sorts of damage, doesn't it, General? I shall get to the point. I can save you, preserve your family, and whatever estate you surely live in, and keep you working in the armed forces as a respected advisor for the rest of your life. All I need you to do is sign this sheet of paper right here.
This writing is small and the light is dim. What in summation does it ask of my agreement?
Not very much at all, General. It simply states that you hold to the convictions of the North and were only roped into working for the Confederates based on your geographic location. It isn't even an outright declaration of defection. It only states that when the war is over, you will come to work for the North because you have always been on our side in spirit. You don't even have to let me win our skirmishes here, though a little help wouldn't go amiss.
And what might you gain from this?
A promotion. Power. I'll likely be in General Grant's advisory. Who knows, there's even rumors of him running for president. Perhaps I'll be in his cabinet. Either way, you likely won't see me again after tonight. I'll let you go back to your camp, and none of this will have ever happened as far as the Confederacy is concerned. You are given a good life, and I'm given a step up.
This is treason. I could never accept such terms. My wife and I will make do after the war regardless of the winner. And while I respect your tactical genius, I have no interest in pushing a false view for your own personal purposes. I'm afraid my answer will be no, sir. As ever, your strategy is admirable. But I suggest that if we are to determine the better man, we decide it by commencing battle over this territory in the morning.
You know something, General? I thought you might have strong enough convictions to say no. That's fine. I respect that. As you say, I do have a sort of skill for strategy and tactics. I anticipated your no answer, which is why, before I had you brought here, I had your plantation located. Greenville, South Carolina, I believe.
What are you doing at my plantation?
Oh, nothing, General, nothing. There's really no need to worry. Your wife has no idea that my men are nearby, waiting for the order to burn the place to the ground and kill everyone there. And nor should she have to, if you'll only sign the paper. I'm really offering you a very fair deal, General. You're not likely to find one anywhere else.
You'd really commit such war crimes to kill an innocent woman and everyone else on the plantation? You'd even murder those who you purport to be standing for?
Yes, well, as Mr. Dickens so eloquently phrases it, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Needs must, General Hargreaves. Now, are you going to work with our team here, or are we going to have to resort to our alternative measures?
You really think I allowed you to simply capture me out of my own camp?
I don't understand your meaning, General.
We sent a reconnaissance team to gather information in order to ascertain precisely where your tent was and your camp. We discovered that you had only just found me. So I left my tent unguarded for your men to make an easy job of it and lead my boys right back here to you.
Hold on now. What are you saying?
I'm saying that you may have control of my plantation, and your faction may have control of this war, but when all is said and done, we will still have our morality.
Let her rip, boys! Two arms, man! General, look out! Get down!
And then I found myself walking toward this here light.
But your wife, is she alive? Is your plantation safe?
I'm afraid that at this moment, only the good Lord knows, my boy.
If they be departed, then thy wars shall never cease, as you seek to do justice to all responsible.
You simply do not understand, my friend. I do not desire revenge. I will mourn bitterly, for I love my wife and all of my workers. But I will stand on the sure foundation that I did the morally right thing, even when there were harsh consequences, and that God has a reason for it all.
I must concede, General Hargreaves, that you are a much better man than I shall ever be.
I'm not interested in comparing myself to other men, detective, only to who I was the day before.
I must also concede to you, Mr. Marcus. It is appearing more and more as though we are, in fact, dead and in some sort of afterlife. I don't think that's right. And I think I have another clue as to why we're here. You do you? You've hardly spoken since we've been here, and you were the last one to join us. Pardon me if I don't think much of your answer at face value, young man.
In mine years of training, Bell, I hath gleaned wisdom enough to recognize the special eyes and ears given to the silent, for they are often amongst the most discerning.
He's right, detective. The least we could do is hear the lad out. He is, after all, the last one of us to share his story.
Oh, very well, then. Proceed with your theory, office worker.
General, I need to tell you something. There is a reason for my interest in knowing whether your wife and plantation survived.
And what might that be, my boy?
My name is Ryan Hargreaves.
Great Scott!
Hargreaves. Now that is an interesting coincidence.
And I'm not rich at all. All three of you enjoyed a lot of wealth, but not me. I'm not poor, I'm just in the middle. We call it middle class in my time, but if your plantation was destroyed, perhaps a lot of the family's wealth went with it.
This is a most interesting theory. I do have children all grown, and they were not on the plantation during the war. So you might actually be some great-great-great-grandson of mine.
But what bearing does this discovery have on Belle and myself?
General, you told us in your story that your family moved to America to join the revolution, right?
Indeed they did.
What if one of them was the son of an English detective, looking to run away from the family's shame after he was discovered? What better place than the New World? But I'm not married. Perhaps you will be, later in life.
Hang on just one cotton-picking minute. I had in my family tree a great-grandmother by the surname of Bell. Just such a lady could be a daughter of yours, detective. We are, after all, only a century or so from one another.
And Mr. Marcus fled his province millennia ago, perhaps always on the run. But eventually, his family line might have stopped running and relocating long enough to take the generational wealth they had collected from his status and build an estate in London, one that would remain and continue to be added to for longer than anyone could remember.
This could be just as thou sayest.
Guys, are we all directly related? That would certainly answer the question as to why the four of us are here in this place. But we still have yet to deduce why.
We are in the underworld.
I'm telling you, I'm not dead.
Perhaps your story will give us the final piece we need, son.
Listen, I'm not your... Actually, I guess I probably am. Let's hear your tale, then, and decide if we can figure this all out.
Okay, well, I go to an office all day and sit and work at a desk, surrounded by others at their desks. I've got a friend, just like all of you do. His name is Jared. I make enough money, but it wouldn't take long for me to start struggling if I ever lost my job. Unfortunately, that's exactly what was about to happen with me. I have this boss. He's not a very nice guy. Nobody really likes him very much. He's rude and he gives people extra work for stupid reasons, like if they cough too loudly and he's already having a bad day. And one day I had to take something to his office, so I was just going to drop off his papers at his desk when I heard him say my name from inside his office. He was talking to someone on the phone. He listed off my name and Jared's, along with a couple of others, and then he said that he was going to fire us. I tried to keep it together as I dropped off the papers, but I was beginning to tremble because if I lost my job, I might lose my house, and if that happened and I went into debt, I'd never be able to propose to my girlfriend, and I might be forced to lose her too. So I immediately went to talk to Jared about it. Jared is a genius coder. He's very good with the advanced machines and technology we have in the future. We have these little robots called computers, which do lots of stuff, but they also let us send messages to other people in the blink of an eye. And Jared could do more with computers than the average person. I told him what I'd overheard.
Typical. Sounds like him. We're in trouble.
What are we gonna do, man? I can't lose the house, or Rachel. I went out on a limb to get that house, and now I only have a couple of months' worth of savings till I can build it back up.
I feel you, man. That's why I've been working on this plan.
Check this out. I'll write a fake, sappy email to the boss, and I'll make it look like it's from some exotic woman. I'll write all about how romantic our trip to Tahiti was and how I liked a big spender. We'll make it look like he's got some affair with a woman going, and that he's embezzling company funds to do it. I'll even change the IP to make it look like it came from someone in Ukraine or Egypt or Brazil, somewhere really interesting. But corporate will investigate and know that it's baloney.
Yeah, but they'll put him on temporary leave while they do it. And in the meantime, if we say that we're the ones reporting it, we'll be unfireable. They might even give us a raise. You know they'll put Kenny in his place, and he's chill and harmless. And he'll either never come back, or he will, but corporate will keep our names anonymous, so he'll never know it was us.
Dude, it's foolproof.
And with the raise, say goodbye to that mortgage and hello to that wedding ring that much sooner.
I don't know, man. That's pretty rotten.
Any more rotten than the way he's treated us? He literally made you scrub the floors last week, dude, for something you didn't even do. He's the worst. Half the stuff he does in here isn't even legal, so it's time to hold him accountable. And if we speak up, others will chime in on how he's treated them if they think their voices are being heard. It's a win-win.
Why don't you just do this yourself then? You don't need me.
Well, as you brought up a minute ago, we can't actually make money disappear. And if it's just me speaking up, it'll be my word against his. But if we both say that we spotted these emails in his office, just a quick glance at his laptop, dropping off stuff while he was out, as could happen to anybody. Now they're gonna listen. I'll write up a statement saying that we both saw it, and all you'll have to do is sign it. Are you crazy? That's basically an affidavit. We'd go to jail if they ever found out. But they won't. Come on, dude. It's our only chance. You know how hard it was to even get this job? How long we looked before we landed it? And now we're gonna get fired? For what? Because some stuffed shirt can't manage money well enough to pay all his workers fairly without firing a few? And once it's all over, we're gonna make more money, and we'll have the eyes of corporate and Kenny and anyone else important. We'll be on the docket for promotions and recognitions because of our loyalty. I get what you're saying, but it's still just kind of scummy to push some narrative that's clearly false. What if he's not the only one to get hurt by this? I mean, does he have a family? My guy, he makes a 6-figure salary. I think he'll be okay. Look, just think about it, okay? Go home and sleep on it. Tomorrow we can move forward with this. The sooner the better, though, before he gives us the boot. So I took his suggestion. I got off work and went home. I was supposed to meet Rachel for dinner that night, but I was pretty tired, so I laid down and took a nap. That's when I found myself here. I don't remember when I started walking.
And so it is, the answer that we have been seeking, glaring at us, likened unto the noonday sun.
What do you mean, Sir Marcus?
Yes, I'd quite like to know as well.
While I am still no member of the stage, we three hath all a role to play in this familial history. The change we hath wrought to our own destinies and futures hath been pivotal. Vast accounts of events might have varied had we acted alternately. And now, young Ryan is greeting the same scenario.
Yes, I see. We are all here to teach Ryan the lessons that we had to learn the hard way.
I believe you are correct, gentlemen. And as for you, son, you heard our tales. You've seen how we have affected your life, and for that I do apologize. But the future lies in your hands now. Only you can make the right decision. So you have to ask yourself, what are you going to choose?
I don't know. Mine head. It pounds with the force of 1,000 drums. I am against the earth. I perished not. The others.
Papa, wherefore art thou?
I am here, my son. I have only fallen on the rough-hewn earth. Come, let us carry on. Taketh me to thy mother. There is much I must confess to her.
Good Lord, man. We thought we lost you, we did. You took a right knock onto the back of the head there. It's a good thing your whistle was heard.
Where's the general? Where's Ryan?
Easy now, mate. The doctors will be here soon.
Burkhart. I know the name of the ringleader.
Easy does it, Bill. Don't get carried away now.
Listen to me, Burkhart, and listen well. I have quite a tale to tell you.
General, we gotta go. Good heavens. What happened to me?
Robertson shot you in the back, sir, in cold blood. Lucky for you, we shot him first. He just got your shoulder. You'll be all right.
Where's my grandson? Ryan? Sir Marcus?
Please, sir, don't excite yourself. Just hold on to me. We'll be out of harm's way in just a jiffy.
Please, send somebody to look in on my home, on my wife.
What was that? Marcus? Bell? Hargreaves? What a dream. Jared? It's Ryan. Listen, we need to talk. I've made my decision. The Twisted Corridor, created by Michael Lanier. Tonight's episode, Agenda, was written by Michael Lanier. All characters are voiced by Michael Lanier. All production, sound mixing, and editing were done by Michael Lanier. All music was written and performed by Michael Lanier, and all sound effects come courtesy of freesound.org, with Foley by Michael Lanier. This is Michael Lanier, inviting you once again to embark on the wonders and terrors that lie around the next corner of the Twisted Corridor.